Africa are already facing many challenges. Power cuts, yet another. The UN Development Programme and the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller have been hosting a seminar this week on entrepreneurship in Johannesburg, discussing the benefits of a targeted program to help small and medium-sized enterprises. The UNDP program provides assistance to SMMEs to ensure they can meet supply contracts with big companies. Let's discuss. We're now joined by small business and township economy advocate, Dr. Thami Mazwai. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
Did the power? Good evening. Did the power cuts come up at the seminar held yesterday? We've just heard from small businesses mainly. It's dire for them.
Well, it's a number of issues came up, and obviously, I mean, the whole issue of outages really came up because the small businesses are losing millions. Now, whilst, I mean, for a big company, losing a couple of hours is perhaps manageable, but not for a small business because they operate on very thin margins. So you can imagine when you are selling perishables and then the power goes off, not only have you lost the business, but you've also lost your stock because they don't have storage facilities and so on. So these are some of the issues that were really discussed at the workshop yesterday.
If we try and put a positive spin on it, is there any opportunity here? You know, the sweet sellers on the sides of the road selling candles. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure to what extent sweets can be a substitute for meat.
True.
Milk and so on, because I'm now talking of people who sell milk, people who sell meat, people who sell vegetables, and those are the people. And then, of course, I mean, the manufacturers, the township manufacturers, I mean, when a guy has got an order to produce, I mean, some gates, and then the power goes off, that affects him, because at the end of the week, his workers are not going to factor in the fact that there was a shortage of electricity. They want their salary as per the contract. So the situation is that, I mean, a big business can always, I mean, provide for such situations, buy generators and so on. But small businesses don't even have the money to buy a generator, apart from the fact that their premises are not really suited for generators, because at the evening, I mean, there was a research that was done by the Small Business Project that showed the level of a crime in businesses in the townships. So that's why some of the owners will prefer to sleep at the business than at home, because you don't know what's going to happen at night when you come back. So you can imagine you buy a generator for about 12,000 rand, then the following morning it's gone. And to buy that generator, you'd have borrowed the money. I mean, you don't have the type of reserves. So the situation is very, very dire.
It's a terrible situation, and for years there has been a concern that they're not economies growing in townships. People are still living in townships but spending their money outside of that township, in Sandton even. And there is money that should be circulating within the townships. So will this exacerbate that effect?
Well, I think that the light at the end of the tunnel, obviously, is the whole campaign by the Gauteng government, which obviously is going to be followed by the other provinces to revitalize township economies. There was a speaker yesterday, Thulani Guliwe from the Department of Economic Development, who really laid out the strategy. He identified the focus areas, manufacture, the infrastructure rollout, how it's going to be, and how finance is going to be provided. And the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller also, I mean, had a session in which they were telling businesses how they can access various types of finance. And of course, Thami Mazwai was there to speak about how perhaps they are going to try and redirect the stockful monies in the township to perhaps become much more productivity orientated than the current situation, in which, I mean, it's consumption.
It sounds good, but here we have an example of a program that has been in place by the UNDP to try and get small businesses into the supply chains of big businesses. Is there any indication that is working, that big businesses are on board and are willing to open up their supply chains?
No. The program was launched. Yesterday was the official launch, but of course the signing was a year ago, and obviously the systems were being put in place. And yesterday, I mean, all the partners came together, whether it was APSA and so on. And I think that now, I mean, it's going to gather momentum now that even the government of Gauteng is going to be actively involved and backing it. So we can really make a fair observation after 6 months or even 9 months of the program having, and I believe that, I mean, after 9 months, then we can bring the UNDP here, and I'm sure the UNDP will have a glorious story to tell.
Okay, so let's give it a chance. Are you seeing, you've just indicated that you're seeing some goodwill from big companies. And my question is, will they naturally come on board? You know, we saw in the case of Walmart arriving, there was a need to maybe force the company to use local suppliers, to use smaller suppliers. Is there enough goodwill that companies will do this on their own? My
sense, and the research that we generally do, is that it's not happening as it should happen. You'll find that major organizations, particularly the state-owned entities, will perhaps put their money where their mouths are, but the private sector companies, save a few and so on, those that have been really involved in development in the black areas like Anglo-American, those will always come to the party, South African breweries and so on. But in general, a lot of the big businesses out there are still very skeptical, are still very much protecting their market because they see small business. I mean, some of them see it, frankly speaking, see it as an irritant. Some of them are opposed to the codes of black economic empowerment for various reasons. They find excuses why they will not comply. But some of the businesses obviously are now coming in because government has now come with a big stick that says thou shalt and so on. And that thou shalt is going to help a great deal in making sure that there are linkages between township businesses and those in town, because we cannot have a situation in which the townships continue to become a market for big business. It's absolutely unacceptable.
So we need political leadership, business leadership. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And let's follow what's happening with those initiatives. That was small business and township economy advocate, Dr. Thami Mazwai.